Joe Biden is once again in hot water for racially insensitive comments that he accidentally made. The Black Lives Matter movement to defund the police isn't really catching on, according to a new poll. Plus, we have yet another example of the problems with mass mail-in voting. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
And God bless the United States of America.
All right, friends, welcome to the show. Happy Friday. I hope you've had a great week. If you're new to the show, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to start with Joe Biden because you have to wonder what is going on in his head. You've got to wonder, what is his campaign thinking when over and over and over again he says ridiculous stuff that doesn't even make sense. And he did it again. He did it again this week. He was at a convention virtually, and he said some things that just make you scratch your head. And this latest one, I'm not even going to call it a gaffe, because a gaffe means that you accidentally say something that's, crazy or stupid or confusing, something like this.
We choose unity over division. We choose science over fiction. We choose truth over facts.
Truth over facts? What does that even mean? But then sometimes Biden's not saying anything at all.
The rapidly rising I don't know.
All right, well, that didn't make any sense. And again, a lot of comments he makes don't make sense. But what I find really disturbing, outside the fact that he's showing that he is not capable of being president of the United States, outside of that, there is this tendency, and it keeps coming up, of him making comments that show that the black community is incapable of thinking for itself, that it is incapable of doing anything on its own without the guidance of government, without the helping hand of the Democrats. They should be helpless. They don't know what's going on. It's the Democrats that will lead them to the promised land. That's what Joe Biden keeps saying over and over again, and it's very disturbing. It's insulting. It's racist. And he's not called out on it by the so-called mainstream media, the leftists that are in the tank for Joe Biden when he says comments like this.
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
So for that one, Biden was called out, but mainly by conservative media sources, to the point where he did have to issue an apology.
It was really unfortunate. I shouldn't have been so cavalier.
Really unfortunate? And again, what Biden is saying is that all blacks have to act a certain way. They have to say certain things. They have to vote a certain way. Otherwise, they are not being true to themselves, to the black community, that they're sellouts, that they're favoring conservatives. That's what Biden is saying. That's what the Democrats believe. They believe that the black community cannot think for themselves, that they have to act in a certain direction, promoting the leftist agenda. Otherwise, they're called out. And that's what Biden does. And it's just so insulting and so racist. Well, guess what? He did it again. This time, comparing blacks to the Hispanic community. And here's his comments.
Yes, and by the way, what you all know, but most people don't know, unlike the African-American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community with incredibly different attitudes about different things.
Are you kidding me with this? Hispanics have different views. They're diverse. They have different attitudes, but all blacks think the same. They all think the same way. They all act the same way. How, if you're a Democrat, can you support this guy? You know he'll raise taxes. You know he won't be strong on defense. You know he'll increase regulations. You know he'll hurt the economy. He's also saying comments like this over and over and over again. He doesn't stop. So of course he was called out on this. Brad Palumbo over at the Washington Examiner, he tweeted this. Some would call this racist. And then there's this one. Joe, dude, no. This is worse than poor kids are just as smart as white kids. So, of course, just like the "you ain't black" comment, Joe Biden had to issue an apology. So he got on Twitter last night and he tweeted this. Earlier today, I made some comments about diversity in the African American and Latino communities that I want to clarify. In no way did I mean to suggest that African American community is a monolith, not by identity, not on issues, not at all. Didn't mean to suggest. Joe, you didn't suggest, you flat out said it, just like you've done over and over again. Well, guess what, folks? this wasn't the only thing he said this week. Speaking out of his basement, because he doesn't come out of his basement, he was addressing this convention of the associations of black journalists and the associations of Hispanic journalists. And he was asked if he'd taken a cognitive test, just like President Trump. Well, that sent him over the top, and here's what he said.
No, I haven't taken a test. Why the hell would I take a test? Come on, man. That's like saying you, before you got in this program, if you take a test where you're taking cocaine or not, what do you think, huh? Are you a junkie?
Biden said, "Are you a junkie?" What kind of response is that? It's so bizarre. But then Biden went on some more and addressed President Trump.
Well, if he can't figure out the difference between an elephant and a lion, I don't know what the hell he's talking about. Did you watch that? Look, come on, man. I know you're trying to goad me.
All right, folks. I know that it's my job to provide analysis, some insight onto what's going on the political scene, but I got nothing. I got nothing for that one. I don't even know what he's talking about. Then Biden sums things up. He wraps up that segment by saying this.
Anyway, I am very willing to let the American public judge my physical and mental my physical as well as my mental fitness, and to make a judgment about who I am.
So what's going on here, folks? Biden continues to say things like this, things that don't make any sense, things that are racist in general, and the left-wing media is giving him a pass. All of these comments on the cognitive test on President Trump, CNN did not even cover Joe Biden's comments live. And we see this happening with the left-wing media over and over again. What they decide to cover, what they decide not to cover. It is up to us to get that message out, whether on social media, whether talking with our friends, whether at work, you name it. It's up to us to get that message out because the left-wing media is not going to do it. All right, so next, I want to talk about the Black Lives Matter movement. But first, if you're new to the show or haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. And when you do, please hit that bell so you'll be notified. We're making our push for 100,000 subscribers by Election Day. 100K by Election Day, and we can do it with your help. All right, so next we're going to talk about the Black Lives Matter movement and their push to defund the police. Because apparently, supposedly, this is what it's all about, right? They want to get rid of the police because the police are so bad in the black community. Minneapolis voted to disband their entire police force. Other cities are voting to defund the police. And we see it over and over again. Crime is spiking. Police are leaving. This is the fallout. So how is it playing with the rest of America? This movement to defund the police. Well, the results of a new Gallup poll are not exactly what BLM was hoping for. And here's the story. More than 80% of black Americans favor a police presence in their area equal to current levels or more, according to findings of a Gallup poll. When asked if they wanted the police to spend more time, the same amount of time, or less time in their neighborhoods, 61% of black adults surveyed preferred the presence remain the same. The findings is similar to U.S. adults at 67% and white Americans, of which 71% preferred authorities to spend the same amount of time in their area. So what happened to this BLM narrative? What happened to this idea that police are targeting unarmed black suspects just to shoot them, just to kill them? What happened to that narrative? I thought everyone hated the police. Well, not according to those results, and here's more. 79% of black respondents who have had at least one interaction with the police in the past 12 months said they want the police to spend the same amount of time in their neighborhood compared to 21% who favor less time. For those who haven't interacted with the police over the past year, 82% favored a greater police presence. So, 82% of blacks who had no interaction with police want their presence there. When there was an interaction with the police, that number dropped to a whopping 79%. So, whether there was an interaction with the police or not, they still want their presence there. The black community wants the police there, helping maintain law and order, helping keep them safe, exactly counter to what BLM is saying, exactly counter to this push that has engulfed these corporations and sports and the whole left that are trying to say that the police are out to get certain people, that there's systemic racism. It's totally wrong, totally inaccurate, yet that's what's being pushed by BLM. The American people aren't buying it. The black community is not buying it, and it's great to see. It's great to see those results. So next, we're going to talk about the problems with mass mail-in voting. But first, folks, tomorrow is our Saturday live stream. We've got a great guest. It's Roger Aronoff. He is the Executive Director for the Citizens Commission on National Security. We're going to be talking about China. We're going to be talking about the Middle East. We're going to be talking about the FBI and James Comey. A little bit of everything. It will be a fascinating discussion. Please tune in. Come armed with questions. It's going to be great. All right, so let's talk about mass mail-in voting, because we've been talking about the problems, the documented problems over and over again. The left won't believe it, or they won't acknowledge it. They won't do anything except to push how safe and secure it is. Remember, on the last show, the White House press briefing, we had this obnoxious reporter saying this.
The president about 10 minutes ago tweeted about vote-by-mail absentee voting. He says, in Florida, the election system is safe and secure, tried and true. What, in his view, changed? Was he advised by Republicans that he was potentially suppressing his own vote by stoking unfounded fears about mail-in voting? And will he admit now is the fact that voting across the country by mail is safe and secure and tried and true?
What a jerk. And again, he's saying things that are completely not true. Safe and secure, tried and true? Folks, every time we are seeing examples over and over again of the problems of mass mail-in voting. It is different than absentee voting. It is different than you, a registered voter, making an application, a request for a ballot. There's some verification there. That is way different than sending out millions to people who did not even request them, saying, please send these back, everything's going to be fine. Well, guess what? New York City, here's another example, and here's the story. The mail-in ballots of more than 84,000 New York City Democrats who sought to vote in the presidential primary were disqualified, according to new figures released by the Board of Elections. The city BOE received 403,000 mail-in ballots for the June 23rd Democrat presidential primary, but the certified results released Wednesday revealed that only 318,000 mail-in ballots were counted. That means 84,000 ballots were not counted or invalidated, 21% of the total. Folks, 21% of the ballots were invalidated, and yet you've got the left saying that it's safe and secure, tried and true. 21% were thrown out, and here's more. 1 out of 4 mail-in ballots were disqualified for arriving late, lacking a postmark, or failing to include a voter's signature or other defects. The Post reported Tuesday that roughly 30,000 mail-in ballots were invalidated in Brooklyn alone. The high invalidation rate provides more proof that election officials and the Postal Service were woefully underprepared to handle and process the avalanche of mail-in ballots that voters were encouraged to fill out to avoid having to go to the polls during the coronavirus pandemic, critics said. So the story goes on to point out lawsuits that are getting ready or have already been filed, and you know that'll be coming. If ballots are late, if they're lost, if someone voted but they didn't get their signature right, there's going to be lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. And it's exactly what the Democrats want. They want the delay. They want the chaos. They want the chance to rig the system rather than having people go out, which we know they can. We know they can vote in social distance. We do it all the time. We do it going to Home Depot. We do it going to restaurants. It's outrageous to think that we can't do it for voting. And if you do feel afraid, if you don't want to do it, then as a registered voter, file for an absentee ballot. You can do that. We have that process down, which is, again, is way different than mass mail-in voting. All right, folks, next, we started our show with Joe Biden, and what a great way to kick off Friday, because he, along with the rest of the left, makes us scratch our head and wonder, do you have a relaxed brain?
I got what you call, a relaxed brain.
All right, so first of all, again, we could have done the whole Joe Biden for relaxed brain, but we actually have some topics. So, first of all, the Emmys, they announced their nominations, and the nominations, you got to wonder if there are any, well, I know there's conservatives out there doing great work in film, in movies, for the Emmys, in news reporting, other kinds of documentaries, reports. We know they're out there, but look at this list of nominees. This is the Emmy nominations for the news and documentary category. Check this out. I'll put this up on the screen. The Rachel Maddow Show, for a story on abortion in Kansas. The New York Times for an equal pay story. Real America with Jorge Ramos. Oh my gosh. New Day Weekend, a story from CNN And The Message from the Future with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. This was her cartoon promotion of the Green New Deal. That is up for an Emmy. Totally bogus program that is a left-wing takeover of basically everything. That is up for an Emmy, along with, 4 other left-wing pieces, segments? I mean, give me a break, folks. These are the Emmys. That's news and documentary category. Next, let's move over to Portland, which is now in about, day 70 of nonstop riots and protests. Well, guess what? A Portland area theater was going to do a screening for fun of Arnold Schwarzenegger's 1990 movie, Kindergarten Cop. It got canceled. It's not being played anymore. Here's the story. A Portland area theater has canceled an upcoming screening of the Arnold Schwarzenegger comedy Kindergarten Cop after people complained the movie sympathizes with law enforcement. The Northwest Film Center had planned to show the 1990 film shot in Astoria for its importance in Oregon filmmaking history as part of its summer drive-in series at Zadell Yards, but it was called off after Portland author Lois Levine fired off a series of angry tweets saying the depiction of the police in school perpetrates systemic racism, the Willamette Week first reported. There's nothing entertaining about the presence of police in schools, which feeds the school-to-prison pipeline in which African American, Latinx, and other kids of color are criminalized rather than educated, Miss Levine wrote. Give me a break, folks. That's relaxed brain right there. It's absolutely nuts. It's completely crazy, and yet this is what is going on around the country. It's crazy, folks. So again, this is our show for today. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget, tomorrow, Saturday live stream, 11 a.m. Central Time with our guest, Roger Aronoff. Until then, please subscribe, and when you do, please hit that bell so you'll be notified, and we'll see you next time. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour. Okay, friends, thanks so much for watching, and before you go, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you'll be notified, and here's a special video just for you so you can watch even more of the 13-minute news hour. And don't forget to check out GOPUSA.com for the best in conservative news and commentary. We'll see you next time.